The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the TIMS Overview webinar. My name is Mike Fitch with the Ohio LTAP Center here at ODOT, and we appreciate your participation. As we get started, please take a moment to locate the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. During the presentation today, please use the questions box to send in any questions you might have. With that, we will go ahead and turn things over to Katy Lewis. Hello.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everybody. Welcome to 2024's first TIMS training webinar. Today's February 13th, and everyone should be seeing my screen now. We're looking at the TIMS homepage. That is ODOT's Transportation Information Mapping System. And I'd like to read our little logo where we offer better data to help you make better decisions. Yee! So today we're just going to step through the TIMS site, and I invite everyone to follow along. So if you have another monitor available, you can open the TIMS site and click along as we go. The URL is gis.dot.state.oh.us/TIMS, or you can just Google ODOT TIMS, and it should be the first thing that pops up. Another resource that you might want to open and have handy as we follow along is down in the footer of the homepage. If you click the help link, I'm going to open a new tab. You will get the user guide PDF, and you can use the table of contents to follow along. Generally, we'll go in the same order, so it should be easy to reference which section I'm talking about as we get through this next hour. And let's continue on with just an overview of our, accidentally hit my volume button, overview of the homepage here and some more links in the footer. So most important, we have this contact page. And I'll try to reference this again before we wrap up again today, because this email address is something that you want to remember. If you have any questions about data that you find in TIMS, if you're having any technical difficulties, or if you are trying to connect to another office within ODOT that owns some of the data that we publish, all of those emails are welcome here to the TIMS email address, and that'll go to myself and several of my teammates. Someone usually will get back to you right away. You can click the TIMS logo to go back to the home page, and there are a few other links. There's a news site where sometimes we will add some links that are relevant. It's good to check that out every once in a while. And so we talked about the title bar at the top, and you can click the TIMS logo to always get back to the home page. And we have the search by PID tool where you can type in any PID that you know. You can see my browsers just remembering PIDs that I recently searched. And that will take you directly to information for that PID. And I'll highlight that some more here in a minute. The site itself is structured into pages, and from the home page, we have a button for each page. So the project search, where you can narrow down the projects that we have published in TIMS to help you find what you're looking for. And from there, you can link into our Create a Map. This is our main mapping page where we have all of our layers available that you can turn on and off and query into that data. The data download page is where we have prepackaged data sets as a shapefile, file geodatabase, a spreadsheet, or a KML, ready to quickly download. Standard PDFs are some configured map templates. You can choose your area, say your county or urban area, and get a pre-configured map template with its legend and all that information. Map viewers are just like the Create a Map page, but they have a subset of layers and they might be symbolized differently. So usually the target audience for those is going to be an office within ODOT, but I'll try to touch on one or two of those today. Our data glossary is kind of like our dictionary. You can get information about all the data sets that are published in TIMS and see when they were last updated. view a list of all the attributes that are available, and get a hopefully helpful description of those attributes. And then through TIMS, we have the GCAT application, our crash data search. Though this is accessed through our TIMS site, it's managed here as a separate application, and LTAP also offers training sessions specifically for GCAT. All right, so let's dive in first and take a look at our project search page. And I always like to read the disclaimer at the top, so we'll just go through that. The project search page is where you can find transportation projects from ODOT's project database. That is our ELLIS system. This search will include projects with funding categories of ELLIS multi-lane, major rehab, STIP, major bridge, safety HSP, safety SRTS, local programs, and track. 2, they're completed, current, or future projects with committed funding, and the key word there is committed funding. Only projects with at least 50% of committed funding will make it through to the TIM site. And 3, they have a valid work location. So whether or not they have a valid work location, I think that they will usually show up in the results table here on this page, but without a valid location, we can't draw it on the map, obviously. So that's just something to keep in mind. The information provided here are an overview of the project information, not a comprehensive view of our project database. So that's important to know, especially if you're an internal ODOT employee. Just because you see a project in our ELLIS system does not necessarily mean it will be represented in the TIMS site. The project information available in TIMS is updated on a nightly basis, and project PIDs with multiple work locations will result in multiple records, and I'll demonstrate that as we go through. So you can see the last time I was on this page, I was searching in Madison County, and my browser remembered the last filters. So I can reset that, and you can see at the bottom my results table by default will load all of the projects that we bring through to TIMS. So we have over 86,000 records. And then as I select values through the filters, it will limit that. So if I go to District 6, you'll see that brought it down to 288. I feel like that's probably applying an additional filter, but we'll keep going. And then let's go back to Madison County. And we're down to 56. As you can see, I am only showing 5 records at a time, trying to keep it all into one page, but I'm still having to scroll for you guys. But I could extend that up to 100 records per page. Let's filter it a little more by picking a fiscal year, and this will be the year that the project was planned. So yeah, see, it's still doing something weird. I think something's caching in my browser, so that value might look different on your page right now. But you can see we've got it filtered down to these 56 projects. They all happen to be the same PID, but you can see they have a different location along Interstate Route 71. They have different log points along that road. So each of these rows will draw in the map as its own record, and we can select multiple and then send it to the map page, or we can export information for the records that we've selected. And I'm not actually going to do it right now, but just to show you the behavior, because a lot of the tools within TIMS will have the same behavior. You choose the action that you want. Something will spin while it's preparing it on the back end, and then your download button will be activated. But we're not actually going to download that right now. So if I want to get more information than just these attributes I'm seeing in this results table, next to any of the records, I can click the View Details button. As I go through this webinar, I'm always going to do right-click on my page and open Link in New Tab. You don't have to do that. That's just trying to help myself not get too distracted, so I can always come back to the page right where I was. So here we have all of the attribute information for a project laid out on a page that you can print. It's meant to be easier to digest. We've got it divided into sections. And most of this information, especially from the top down, it will apply to the overall PID. And then depending on the record that you clicked, if it has a bridge associated to that one location, then you'll get that information. So if we come back here, you can see, how do I know if I'm looking at a bridge or a roadway segment? Well, a big indicator is the log point. So when we have a beginning log point, county true log beginning, county true log end, if you have a beginning log point and no end log point, then that's going to draw on the map as a point. If you have a value for either, then you know that's going to be a section of roadway. So let's select one segment and then one bridge or a point feature. It's usually associated with a bridge, and had all these others selected. Okay. And now let's send that over to our map page. Click this View and Map button. Of course, I forgot to highlight one really useful tool from the project search page. So I am going to click my back button. When you've narrowed down a list and you have your results populated, say you wanted to filter that even more, but you're not exactly sure which section or whatever, well, you can use the search tool to type in any text and it will filter any of these values. So, of course, we have all the same. Since I'm just demonstrating it, let's reset everything. Say I wanted to see everything on Route 71, and you can see in my route field, I always have leading zeros so that it takes up 5 characters. So I can type in my 3 leading zeros and then Route 71, and it will instantly filter. So just kind of using some knowledge about the format in this table, I can use the search tool in a really valuable way. Okay. So because I hit the back button, we are going to have to quickly pull that back up. And we wanted to have one point and one segment. Send that back to my map page, and you'll see that it pulls up 2 results layers. One is our project lines and one is our project points. Then down at the bottom of my map page, I have a results table here, similar to what we saw on the project search page, but I have every single attribute listed for that table. And if you remember, we took a look at the project information page. That was also populated by all of these attributes. Now we're just viewing it in a table format instead of spread out over the page. Okay, so if I want to flip back and forth between the tables, I can just use the down arrow in the results layer section of the table of contents and switch to that attribute table. You can scroll all the way over and see all the information that's available, including these links. But I want to, now that we're over on our map page, I want to take just half a step back and refresh our site and say we were starting from scratch at our map page. How could I navigate to projects in that area? So looking at an overview, this is what the map page will look like when you first go there. Over on the left-hand side, you'll have your menu, which is resizable. Your results table at the bottom, which you can resize or collapse completely. You'll have all of the layers available in groups that you can expand. And we'll take a look at some of these. Obviously, it would take us hours and hours to go over every layer that's available. Roadway information. Safety is going to be the previous 3 years of crash data that's formatted for public viewing. our boundaries, our reference layers. And let's dive into our projects. So let's turn on all of our current projects. I think this is a really useful. And again, we have our project points, which usually are associated with bridges. Our project lines, which are going to be segments of the roadway. Just like, you're probably comfortable with web maps at this point. If you have a touch screen, you can use the screen to zoom in. You can use your mouse button or the roller on your mouse to zoom in and out. Or we have the navigation buttons here. The home button will get you back to the full extent. But we have some other tools to help you navigate throughout the map. And we're going to step through those now. So I'm going to try to cover everything that's available in the toolbar. And that is going to be at the top, the dark blue bar at the top of the table of contents pane. This first section, the find locations, we have 4 ways of zooming into the map. I usually call these the zoom tools. So you can find an address, and it's just pre-populated with ODOT central office address as an example. Or you could do an intersection. Let's see. It does help if you can spell. I can just give it a city. So it's pretty responsive. Our next option, find latitude and longitude. We may have coordinates that someone's provided to us. We can paste those in here. But also, you can use this tool to report on coordinates. So with this click on map button, I just click to activate it. And when I zoom over my map or pan over my map, you'll see I have a different icon. Now I have this crosshairs icon that's letting you know that the tool is active. You can click anywhere. It will draw a flag and report that lat long. Our next tool is the find log point tool. So if you work with ODOT data, you are familiar with the term NLF ID and log point. Network linear feature ID is how we identify all the roadways in our system, and then the log point is the location along the route. So you can use this tool to pick a route. So let's stick with Madison County and Interstate 71. It will tell you the valid county log points for that section of roadway. So that'll zoom us right to that area. Similarly, we can use this tool to report on a log point, which can be very useful. You will activate the tool. Again, you'll get the crosshairs icon. And we'll go somewhere different so you get a reference. And then you just need to click generally over a roadway. This is just our ODOT base map that's drawing in the background, but underneath that is geometry for a roadway system. So say if I clicked out here, it may tell me no log point found. If I click over the roadway, it will identify that route. Okay, our final option, find area. You can think of this as just zooming to a boundary polygon. So you can choose a county, MPO, district, or urban area. I use this as a quick reference. You'd think by now I would have the location of all 88 counties in Ohio memorized, but a lot of the times if I'm in a meeting and someone's talking about a county, I'll pull it up quickly here so I know which region I'm in. Okay, next on our toolbar, we have the Identify Features tool. And so anytime you have, I'm going to go back to my Set Visible Layers to remind you that we've turned on our current project points and current project lines. And I want to get information now about an individual feature on a map. For that, I can activate my Identify Features tool. And if I click over where I think I'm going to have both a point and a line, hopefully I'll be able to, yes, so I'll get results from multiple layers that are turned on, and I can switch back and forth between them. And you'll see there are actually 2 line features, so I can toggle between those. And again, here I'm looking at all of the attributes that we publish for a project, the same information that was in that project information page layout and when I was viewing it in the results table. So it's just different ways of viewing. Really handy with our project information, you can link directly to the Office of Contracts digital paper system to view project plans. And I'll give you an overview of how that will look. It'll bring you to the page and then you can just click the view button on the right. It'll download that PDF. As you can see, I did that earlier this morning. It's pretty quick. I jinxed it by saying it was quick. There you go. And then you can get the full project plans. So that's one example of how we use TIMS to link to external systems and try to bring all the information together. Okay, so here in our project section, it's probably useful if I explain what I'm looking at when I turn on the current projects layers. So we could start by all projects, points and lines, and that's going to include all of those 86,000 records that initially populated on our project search page. And just note again, that's not 86,000 project IDs or PIDs. That's because one PID can have multiple locations. And then all of the layers below it are just filters of these top two layers. So if I only want to view what's coming up in the next 4 fiscal years, and now that we're seeing different symbols, it's a good time to say, as you turn layers on and off, you can switch back to the Legend tab and get an explanation of what those symbols represent. We can do previous fiscal years, district work plans, I think will represent how many years? So it's a longer grouping of years. If you work in a district, you'll know how they plan those out. And then current projects, it's looking at the construction dates that are logged for that project. And if today's date falls in between the begin construction and end construction dates, then it's going to be turned on with this filter. So let's stick with our area and say, we're researching everything that's going on with this PID 107630, right? We've gotten all the information about that project, but we want to see what other assets are around. So we can expand our assets grouping. And two very common data sets are our conduit inventory. And again, you can turn them on and then use your identify features to view all the attributes for that conduit. Bridge inventory. A lot of the point locations for this project that we were looking at are going to be associated with a bridge. So you could get, an associated structure file number and then come over to your bridge database to get more information. And let's do that. I think we're at 123. I think we've got time. If I go back, turn these on, use my identify tool, select one of the project point locations. If I scroll down, I should see a structure file number associated. Here we go. Of course, not that one. Of course. I know one thing that might help if I click over the river, but I think when I zoomed at one point, I'm not seeing the waterway now. Let's see. If we don't see one now, I'll move on. I had a really great plan before I got into the call and started talking. Isn't that usually how it goes? Okay, I did, but that's okay. So we'll go back and just, pretend that now we're digging into one particular bridge. Let's just use this structure ID 4930355. So we can use these filter tools. I'm going to skip this tools button. I'll come back to it in a minute. And now we're going to dive into these filter tools. And I'm going to search for that specific structure file number in the bridge database by building a simple query. So you can choose any layer that you have turned on that will show in this drop-down list. And then you can search to help you identify the field that you're looking for. Structure number. And then sometimes it'll take a second for this drop-down list to populate. You can always type in as well 4930355. Okay, now you'll see that selected on the map. You'll see in your results table, if you bring that back up, that you've got one record. And if you go back to your Set Visible Layers tab, you'll again see this results layer section has popped up. If you remember, a results layer was generated when we sent from the project search page over to the map page. So it's good to just be familiar with that behavior within the TIMS application. So from here, if I wanted to have all of these attributes available for that bridge, I can export as a spreadsheet or as a GIS file. You can usually populate results lists up to 1,000 records, I think. So it's really designed for drilling down to a small subset of information that's relevant, and then you can use the tools to export. Again, we have that generic search tool, so if you're just trying to narrow down things that you've populated, you can just start typing in text and it will search across all of the attributes available. Okay, some other ways that you can filter data. So we did filter by attributes. We can do a filter by geography. And again, you want to pick the layer. Let's say we want every bridge in Madison County. I can already tell you I'm going to regret picking that large of one. Because there'll be a lot, so actually I'm not going to, I'll do it. Oh, there's 327, okay. It's being nice today. But it will take a while to populate. There we go, that wasn't too bad. Good job, internet. So now I could export and I'd have my own database of all the bridges in Madison County. You'll just need to remember that the bridges are updated in TIMS nightly. So if I export something out, obviously I'm not going to be receiving those nightly updates. Okay. A third way is to draw a graphic on the page and select everything within that graphic. So we could use this tool to draw a line along the section of 71 that goes through Madison County. I think I've overwhelmed it at this point. All right, let's activate our draw tool. Let's refresh our system. And it will be pretty quick to get back to where we were using these tools that we've already covered. I go this area and I'll have to turn my layer on. Filter by graphic. I want to draw a line, activate my draw tool. There we go. Click along, double click to end. And now I'm going to want to buffer that line to make sure that I'm getting everything along the roadway. You can change your units. There you go. And again, that will populate the results table at the bottom. Okay, so now let's turn that off so hopefully we don't bog down the system and go back through our tools menu that we had skipped over. Just some basics. You have your measure tool. It behaves the same way as when I use the filter by graphic. You're going to activate the tool, click to start drawing, double click to finish, and then your value will show up here. And I believe you can also use this to convert the values automatically. Once you've drawn your area, you can just switch back and forth. So that's another useful tool. Draw is just to draw a quick graphic. I'm not sure, what context, if you want to add a note and then take a print screen or print the page as a PDF, might be useful. Bookmarks, you can create a bookmark and that will be saved in your browser session on your PC. So that will stay there until you've cleared out all of your history and cookies. So I could say, there you go. And then these final two tools are really helpful. You can link directly to ODOT PathWeb. You click it in the menu and the interface isn't going to change at all, but when you pan over your map, you'll see you have the crosshairs icon again, so you know it's activated. And you'll click over a roadway. Similar action as when you're using the LRS tools, you're using the base map as your reference, and underneath that on the back end, it's pulling the geometry so it knows what road you clicked on. Then it's going to open the PathWeb system, zoom directly to that section. So if you're not familiar with PathWeb, it's our photo log, and it can be really useful. So this is, we have the PathWeb vans, they drive the state, I think on a 2-year cycle, collecting all this information. So it's a really good tool to inspect an area without having to go out into the field. And they are scanning the surface as well over here on the right side. And then that final resource, the map channel. For this one, you can click anywhere. It does not have to be along a roadway. And it's just going to open this dual maps page. It'll bring up an advertisement. It's a free service. And just click the view and map button. So it's just bringing together all the views that are available in Google Maps into one screen so you can navigate them together. I clicked out in the middle of nowhere, so of course it's not going to have a road view. It's still useful. So there you go. But I move over to a road. So another good resource for investigating an area. Okay, and let's make sure we get through the final section on our toolbar, the add data tool collection. Expand that. So if you have your own data that you want to add for reference, you can bring it in, and I'm sure you can guess what I'm going to say. That will work for your browser setting. It won't be saved in the TIMS system, and you won't be able to send a link to someone else to also view that information. They would have to re-add it. So of course, if you have a KMZ or a shapefile, but I like to highlight the LRS events, and I could show you. So you'll want, if you have a spreadsheet with the right information, and when this opens, you'll see that I have a spreadsheet full of NLF IDs and log points. These are the required fields. I'll point to that spreadsheet. And that's similar, click twice behavior that you've seen throughout. I'll point to the file that I want, and then my upload button will be activated. And then it's going to try to automatically fill in the fields, but if it's not named exactly the same, you'll have to handpick them. And these are point events because I only have a beginning log point. So there you go. And it will populate the results table as well with all those fields that are pulled in from the spreadsheet. And as you can imagine, it also generated a results table that I can interact with. Similarly, I can bring in a spreadsheet with lat long coordinates and map those. I can also take a spreadsheet full of addresses and geocode those. So let's demonstrate that. So I pointed to my file. I'll click my upload button. The site will attempt to fill in the columns, but if they're not named exactly the same, you'll pick them and then click geocode. My table is updated and you'll see all of those locations. So it looks like this was a spreadsheet of airports. The last option, reverse geocode, that is when you have a spreadsheet of latitudes and longitudes, and it will assign the addresses. Not sure if I have a good sample to demonstrate that, so just so that you know it is available. Finally, the toolbar in the top right corner of the mapping page has a few options. You can change your base map. By default, you'll open up to ODOT's custom base map, and that is so that we have our most currently published road inventory data mapped. So, you know, outside of the state, we've kind of got that grayed out because we don't own that data. But it's really helpful to have our roadway segmentation as your base map, especially when you're working with the log point information. Also specific to Ohio, we have OSIP in imagery, Ohio Statewide Imagery Program. This is managed by Ohio Department of Administrative Services. I believe the OGRIP group, and it is high quality satellite imagery. If you choose the third option, that's going to be the best available. It will fill in with the most current year it has for that area. So just like PathWeb and the map channel resource, it's a really good way to get more information about an area. One thing to note is if you use the OSIP imagery, you have that set as your base map, you close down TIMS and come back the next day. Of course, when you reopen the site, it's going to go all the way to the main homepage. And your screen may just spin like this, right? Because as you can imagine, the satellite imagery is very large and it will take a very long time to draw for the whole state. So if you see that, if it's frozen like this, one good thing to try is just to switch the base map. And that usually will clear that up. The top part of the base maps list, they are out of the box base maps that we get with our Esri licensing. Esri is the software tool we use for all of our GIS analysis, and it's the backbone of the TIMS platform. So we make some of those available. It's good to know. Here in the Create a Map page, we have just a very basic print function. I don't know why anyone would want to print this fine map I've created, but just to show you. It's not going to have a legend. It's just generic so that whatever layers you do have, whatever area you're zoomed into, you'll get a basic layout for that. And hopefully if you guys are playing along, you're not having, you know, the slowness that I'm seeing right now. Whenever I am in the webinars, it does tend to do that. So I end up resetting my page a lot. That usually does the trick. Let's try it one more time. Making me look bad. Print tool. While that's thinking about it, I'm going to turn on one more layer and I'm going to zoom to an area so that I can demonstrate this last option, the share map with friends. So this will generate a smart link. You can copy it here, email that off to a friend or a coworker, or just you know, save it somewhere so you can access again. Because when you use that link, it's going to remember the layers that you had turned on and the area that you were zoomed into. And there's our map. It just took a while. There it is. So you'll get the date that it was printed, that it was sourced from TIMS, and then just a general view of what you're reviewing. Okay, but since that happened all at the same time, let's do that again. If I open a new tab, I paste in my smart link, it will zoom to that area and the same layers will be turned on. So that's a really useful way to share information. Okay, so we've done the full overview of the Create a Map page. That's really the meat and potatoes of our TIMS site. And say you have information or you have questions about the layers that are available here. So I think that the next logical step is to skip ahead to our data glossary, and we'll come back to these other 3 pages to finish out our webinar today. So our glossary page, you can pick any of the data sets from the drop-down list at the top. Again, just like all the other drop-down lists, you can type to filter. Once you pick a data set, the table at the bottom will be filtered to all the attributes that are included for that, and hopefully a helpful description of that attribute. There will be some links on the left-hand side. If you hover over the question mark, you'll see the date that it was last updated. So again, bridges are updated daily, so that date should be refreshed every day. And just a general description of the data set. So you'll note we've got these links listed in every single row, but they all point to the same thing. And then if this middle link is active, it should take you to the page for the data owner, so the Office of Structural Engineering, where you can get more information. We try to keep those populated and updated. Again, you can export this as a CSV or Excel file. And we have, again, that generic search tool. So let's say I'm looking for all the fields related to appraisal. I can just start typing that in to help you narrow down. We can look for projects. Again, you'll see that's updated daily. And it'll take you to the business page for our Ellis system. So that's kind of the first stop when you have questions about data. And of course, if you're not finding the answer or you're seeing discrepancies or something like that, you will send us an email. Now's when I'll really start honing that in. And if you forgot what our email is, that's in the footer on the home page, the contact link. There you go. Okay, our data download page, I'd mentioned at the beginning, this is where you have all of our pre-packaged data sets available in those same formats that you saw from the tool available in the results tables. So they're grouped together, but unfortunately they're not really in an order. I think it's just the time on the server that it is last updated, right? I'm not really sure. So sometimes you have to look around, but you can pick as many data sets as you're wanting to download and then choose your format. And it will start packaging those up. You'll get your download here. So what you'll get, if you choose multiple data sets, you'll get one zipped file. Inside of that zip file, there will be another zipped file for each data set. Again, it can be useful to reference the data glossary to know when that was last updated. If you download our road inventory, that's going to be up to date. You know, it's going to be current for a year. We only publish road inventory changes on a year to year, usually around June. But if you download bridges, then they're going to be out of sync as we push updates to TIMS bridges every single day. All right, let's take a look at our standard PDF map page. So we had a need for some maps that included a legend, maybe some more information, some customized layouts, more than you could get just from the, sorry, just from the generic print tool and the create a map page. So we've designed a couple here. You can choose your theme. Let's start with, say, a fiscal year project map, because we've already talked about that. Project data filtered by fiscal year. And then narrow down to a geographic area. You can choose your size. I'll try to go with the smallest. Hopefully it'll be quicker. So you're welcome to play around and view samples of each of these pre-configured map templates. All right. If you'll remember, like all the other behaviors, we told the site what we wanted to do. It thought about it for a minute, and now we have our download button. And if you think that your workflow would benefit from having a pre-configured map template, you're welcome to reach out to us and request that. We try to work with all the other businesses and provide those as needed. So you can also view AEDT, or our traffic count information, a milepost map just showing the mileposts along the roads. You can view the roadways by functional classification, and I think all the other ones are designed around project information. Okay. Now let's take a quick look at our map viewers page. And as I mentioned earlier, these are going to have all the same functionality as the Create a Map page, but they're customized. They'll have a subset of layers. Those layers might be symbolized differently. I want to take a look at the structures menu, since we already looked at bridge information. And you'll see we've got some customized layers. We're filtering out bridges so that you can only view, say, the state DOT maintained. And oh, I see those are all actually the same symbols. So you would just turn one on at a time. Every layer that you do turn on will be represented in the legend, so you can switch back and forth. More ways of filtering out the bridge information by operating status, fracture critical inspections. I'm no expert on the bridge data, but one thing I haven't noted on is a lot of our layers will have a draw limit. So when you're zoomed all the way out, they won't turn on. Unfortunately, we don't have a way of indicating it in this current system. But if you've turned on a layer and nothing is drawing, just try zooming in, and it should draw when you get down to like the county level. And then for reference, it has the same boundaries listed, roadway information. I actually do want to go back and turn on our traffic information, because I meant to touch on that while we were, I might have to do it from the main page. I see we have about 12 minutes left. But we have a another resource with our traffic information that lets you link to an external system that I like to highlight. So if I turn on my segments, and then I use my identify tool to view the attributes of that segment, you'll see I'll have a link directly to the MS2 system for the traffic reports. So that's a useful way to link to an external system, just like linking to PathWeb, viewing the project contracts, and those things. Okay. I closed the whole thing. That's okay. So let's get back to our map viewers. And the last thing I want to highlight here is a quick look at the environmental map viewer. It has a lot of useful layers that are only available here in this map viewer as well. I've clicked so much, it's just about done with me today. But you guys probably are too, so that's okay. So while that's trying to load, and whether it does or not, I feel like I've given a pretty good overview of all the functionality in our TIMS site. If you've been paying attention to TIMS or attended the past or any of the webinars in the recent past, you've probably heard that we are working on enhancements to our TIMS site, and I'm happy to report we're still on track for that, and we're looking to have production rollout planning begin in spring. So of course we'll have all the same data sets and all the same functionality plus more, hopefully in an interface that's really intuitive and easy to interact with. I do want to say that we are starting to think about training materials and how we want to prioritize training in this new system. We'll have both the old site and the new site available for quite some time, so you don't have to worry about just coming to TIMS one day and having it be totally different. There will be a transition period. But I want to invite everybody to think about how they use TIMS and what kind of training they would like to see. How can we focus our training to scenarios that are really useful to you in TIMS? I do these webinars and just do the overview of the basic functionality, but we'd really like to focus in on specific workflows. So I'll bring up this page to kind of close it out and just invite you to think about how you use TIMS and how you can help us create valuable training materials by letting us know, what data do you use, do you pull up most regularly, and what do you use that for? And just to shoot me an email directly, katylewis@dot.ohio.gov. That would really help me as I start designing new training materials. We hope to have short videos available that you can just link to right from the page. Of course, we'll be scheduling in-person training and we'll continue with the online webinars. So in the first year or so, there'll be a ton of outreach. And with that, I guess I should check with Mike, see if we had any questions along the way,
Hi, Katy.
or if
Thanks
anyone would
so
like.
much.
Hi,
Great
Mike.
information shared today. At the moment, we don't see any questions, but as a reminder to our audience, the questions box is open. So this would be a great time to type in those questions. And Katy, while we're waiting for that, if there's any additional examples you'd like to share, we have plenty of time available right now.
I mean, it sounds like I've put everyone to sleep, and I think I'd like to offer them this last 7 minutes. I'll just offer that back so they can,
Sure.
have 7 minute
Well,
break
let's,
before their next meeting.
okay, here we go. Question from Bruce. What data do you have on airports or aviation?
Okay, sure. We have in our Create a Map page under our assets, we have aviation facilities divided into 2 layers so you can turn on your public use. And then there should be, oh, maybe that is, oh, there we go. Private use as well. So once I have this turned on, I can see them in the legend. These are updated on an as-needed basis. So this is actually a good reminder for me to reach out and see if I need to pull in updates. To see when it was last updated, of course, you could access it from, oh, we don't have this turned on here. So yeah, we'd have to go to the glossary page to see when they were last updated. Pull it up here, and then I can hover here. So in March of last year, it's probably about time. See if they've got any updates for us. Hope that helps.
Very nice.
See if we can get Mike back. Yeah,
And thanks,
okay.
Bruce. Thanks, Bruce, for your question. We have time for additional questions. And Katy, you mentioned earlier, we do host the GCAT webinars with Caroline Griffith. And could you tell us a little bit about the connection of the GCAT and TIMS systems?
Sure. So the basic, within GCAT, it's designed for navigating crash data. And if I go back to our homepage, it does require a login because it includes a lot more crash detail. So it's going to have more than what's available in the crash layers on the TIMS Create a Map page. There's information on the GCAT homepage for requesting a login. Once you are in there, similar to our project search page, it's got tools for narrowing down the crash information. And there are limits, of course, to the number of records that we can return because it's all, web-based. We try to keep it quick. You can use this View and Map button. It will tell you how many results. And as you can see, once you get to this page, it's the exact same system. So it still has all the same tools, the results table. It has many of the same layers that you can turn on and off. But then it has additional tools that Caroline would be the one, or someone from the safety group to really walk you through that functionality. But if you're familiar with one, you're familiar with the other, and except for the crash specific tools. So yeah, really, if you work with that data at all, I recommend registering for a webinar with Caroline. She can give you all the tips and tricks.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. We do have 2 questions. So, Katy, I've copied these into the chat for you. There's a question from David and also from Egan.
Okay, dead end county roads. Ooh, so do we have an indicator if a road is dead end? That's a really good question, David, and I would invite you to maybe shoot me an email directly because I'm going to need to follow up with our road inventory team. Off the top of my head, I don't think that we note if a road is a dead end road, but there may be a way to filter that out. So I'd like to follow up with that. So if you shoot me an email, then I'll know how to contact you directly. And from Egan, for safety crash data, does it let you bore down to actual individual crash reports? So I know that it does. It is geared towards getting the crash report data. I am not super familiar with this data. Well, there you go. Just using what I know about the TIMS site, I can use my identify features tool to select a feature in the map. And then there's a link right at the top of the table for a crash report. So if that's something that you're looking for. Again, if you don't already use the GCAT site, oh, I've logged in now, so it's just going to automatically put me in, but it'll take you to that login page where it has information for how you can request login information, and you'll be given an ODOT online account. It's pretty straightforward.
All right. Thanks, Katy. And our timing is just about perfect as we are almost at 2 p.m. So, quick question from Thomas. Where can we register for GCAT webinar? So we announce all of our LTAP webinars through our LTAP email, and you're welcome to go to our Ohio LTAP webpage, and there is a sign up for LTAP email. You can also visit our available training webpage through LTAP. So thanks, Thomas, for that question. Also, I want to mention we do record all of our LTAP webinars, so if you just want a quick reference to a previous broadcast, you can check out our Ohio LTAP YouTube page, and you'll see many, many recordings from our webinars. So with that, we want to thank everybody for participating today, and especially thanks to Katy for presenting. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks. Bye.